Hello and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Event Comics Month continues with the story that will be adapted into the next Avengers movie, The Infinity Gauntlet. Unless you're watching this after that came out, in which case, hello again, the future! I like to keep my show nice and dated. The Infinity Gauntlet is from 1991, meaning at this point we're well into how event comics work. Although, believe it or not, the Infinity Gauntlet is only Marvel's third with the definition I gave of tie-in issues plus limited series where the main story takes place. The first two were, well, Secret Wars and Secret Wars 2, and even then, Secret Wars was arguably not an event under my definition because it didn't have tie-ins in the traditional sense. Otherwise, between 1986 and 1991, it was mostly just crossover storylines like Mutant Massacre or Acts of Vengeance. But of course, that doesn't mean such events were unlikely. Oh no. After the success of Crisis on Infinite Earths, DC basically had a bunch of crossovers almost annually, including Legends, which I talked about briefly in the Blue Beetle retrospective, Millennium, which gave us the New Guardians, Invasion, which was one of the runners-up for the votes for Event Comics Month, having been adapted into some of DC's TV universe, and most importantly for today, War of the Gods. War of the Gods was an event in 1991 meant to celebrate Wonder Woman's 50th anniversary, written and drawn by George Perez, who of course did the artwork for Crisis on Infinite Earths. Shame on me for not mentioning that, or that the Alex Ross cover for the trade had pencils done by him. Sorry. And although War of the Gods only had a 4-issue miniseries for the main story, it's actually a story in 25 parts, with the tie-in issues serving as the other 21 pieces of the story. Perez was clearly very invested in War of the Gods and celebrating 1D's 50th, but felt that DC wasn't doing enough to promote the event. Plus, editorial issues were popping up and causing problems. What does this have to do with Infinity Gauntlet? Well, that's because Perez was also tapped to do the artwork for it. Unsurprisingly, while the guy is a pro and a friggin' fantastic artist, it was too much for him and he was unable to finish the artwork on Infinity Gauntlet, only doing up to issue 4 out of 6. But let's talk about the event itself, and some of the major players in it. See, some of these characters we haven't actually talked about before, including the most major of the players, Thanos himself. Thanos hails from Saturn's moon Titan, and his mother tried to kill him at birth. Man, parents can be a real bummer. Am I right, teenage viewers? As he grew up, Thanos became obsessed with nihilism and death, eventually falling in love with the physical embodiment of death itself. Portrayed as a woman, so Thanos can have a case of the not gays. Well, actually, death may have been portrayed as a woman before, I don't know, and I don't care all that much. But yeah, Thanos' entire deal is about wanting to impress death herself. Basically, this entire event is centered around a guy who can't take the hint that she's just not into him. Actually, funny story, she is into him. Kinda. Sorta. Their relationship is weird, and we'll get back into that a bit more in a second. The other big player we've got to talk about is Adam Warlock. In the comics, he's a gold dude who was created by scientists on Earth as an artificial perfect human. He went into space, did a bunch of space stuff, and in particular, he got his hands on a shiny rock known as the Soul Jewel. However, it is better known as the Soul Gem, one of the 6 Infinity Gems. The gems represent different metaphysical aspects of creation itself: soul, time, space, mind, reality, and power. Each individual gem is dangerous enough since they grant the wielder certain superpowers, like the time gem allowing one to control time, or the reality gem screwing with fundamental physics of the universe. Naturally, whoever wields all 6 of them at once is basically a god, and yet Thanos still manages to forget their anniversary and gets death a crappy gift. Being a more traditional event comic, there's actually some backstory involved in this. Nothing major, but the funny thing is that if you assumed that part of the story involves Thanos actually going and claiming the gems and the heroes trying to protect them, well, you're wrong. No, the story starts with him already having them. Thanos' collection of the gems is told in the 2-part miniseries Thanos Quest. It's actually a really good story, although given how powerful these things are supposed to be, the fact that he manages to get all 6 fairly easily is a bit head-scratching. Still, while the quest is basically a cakewalk for Thanos, the story shows off his guile and intelligence, more often tricking his adversaries into giving him the gems than trying to overpower his opponents through brute strength, although he has plenty of that to spare. So how can our heroes defeat someone wielding that kind of power? Well, let's dig into the Infinity Gauntlet and see how they pull it off.
Linkara. This comic sucks. Linkara.
A scrub is a guy that thinks he's fly and is also known as a buster. Always talking about what he wants and just sits on his broke ass.
As with all these events, reading from a trade, so no looking at the covers, although it's a mixed bag with this one, issue 1's being the best artistically, just in how it uses the glint of the gems to show off many of the characters involved in the story. We open on a rocky alien planet. That's 3 for 3 now of comics starting out in space, and all 3 are considered classics. And yet, Amazon's Attack, Civil War, and Ultimatum all suck, all not in space. Think about it. There can be no denying it. You are supreme. Anything you wish to be, you are. I love it when my comics are also motivational posters. Nothing in this universe dares challenge that claim. There be only one word to describe you. Bluffelschnitz. Had to invent that word since no other would do you justice. Nah, that word is God, written in huge letters out of stone. Because when you're that powerful, it's really go big or go home. And who has presented this to Thanos? Why, Mephisto, of course! He schmoozes Thanos for a minute and strokes his ego. How may I serve you, great Thanos? By falling silent, Mephisto. I'm just saying, trade your marriage with death to me, and my rock sculpture collection is yours! By the way, nice job, Mephisto. You wrote God out in English, which is probably not the native tongue on Saturn's moons. I mean, I heard it was Esperanto, but I'm too lazy to Google it. And after Mephisto spent so much time building that display, Thanos just waves his hand and destroys it as a small demonstration of the absolute power he now wields. The Infinity Gauntlet, with all the powers of construction equipment. As Thanos says that he now claims the head seat of cosmic gods, we cut to Earth, where Doctor Strange is studying some textbooks when he has an unexpected guest drop in on him. The Silver Surfer, who crashes through the roof of Strange's sanctum to warn him about Thanos and the Gauntlet. He gives a recap of events in his book. You see, Thanos was dead and then resurrected in Silver Surfer's solo series, because death in comic books is like breadsticks from Olive Garden. You might have finished them off, but the waiter will just keep bringing in more, and you can't say no. In fact, it was Death herself that resurrected Thanos, which seems like an odd power to have for someone whose sole purpose is in fact the opposite of that, because Death feels that the cosmic balance has been thrown out of whack. How exactly? She thinks that there are more things alive today than have ever died, and that irregularity should be corrected. Okay, Death, considering the size and age of the universe compared to sustainable population and relative lifespans, I'm gonna need to call citation needed on that one. Death has ordered Thanos to exterminate half the sentient population of the universe. Never before has the word overkill been more appropriate. With Thanos now having godlike power, he contemplates what exactly he should do with that power. The answer to that is really quite simple. Star Trek and Star Wars crossover. It's about damn time. Anything I want. Time to finally get my chin smoothed. Nah, anything apparently means blow up the planet they're on. Well, when you got a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Any result that displeases me, I can simply reverse. I have the power of retcons and reboots! This being a more traditional event comic, there are a number of subplots in it. Some of those subplots head off into other books, while others run throughout Infinity Gauntlet itself, this one included. In this case, Adam Warlock, Gamora, whom most of you might know from the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, and another dude named Pip were also dead, their spirits inside of the Soul Gem, but were then resurrected here. However, to do so, they apparently have to claim new bodies on Earth, choosing 3 people who die in a car crash and slowly mutate their new bodies into their old ones. Adam Warlock in particular needing to go into a cocoon to assume his old form. Because artificial perfect human just means butterfly, I guess. Thanos and Mephisto head to the realm of death so he can once again try to woo her, but here's the problem. Thanos sought the power of the gems so he could become her equal. But the power he now wields makes him her superior. So while before she wouldn't speak to him directly because he was unworthy, now she won't talk to him and reciprocate his love because she's unworthy. Whoops. He tries to impress her by creating a massive structure in reverence and worship to her and teleporting them all there. I be now a deity, yet first I was a man! I was a man! Oh! Pull the Superboy Prime there. He creates 2 thrones for them to sit on as equals to determine the fates of all that is and never will be, but she just walks away. Still she spurns me? Perhaps it is because she does not yet realize the true stagnant depths your black soul is capable of achieving. Very well, unleash the copyright bots! Thanos figures out the way to do that is show her Nebula, whom again you might know from the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. But in the comics, she actually only claims to be related to Thanos, in this case a granddaughter. Thanos uses his power to transform her into a half-decayed symbol of his depravity. She's neither alive nor dead, in a near-mindless limbo state with twisted limbs and scarred flesh. I shall impress you, Lady Death, by giving her a makeover! She is my living tribute to the blasphemy of life and the glorious promise of death. I call this work of art Hardy's. Death is unimpressed with her zombie-like servant who speaks for her, explaining thusly, Titan, Mistress Death finds your boasts empty and your bravado distasteful. Not too late to take her out to a movie she'll like, Thanos. Extra points if it's something you know you'll hate. In response, Thanos blows the zombie up and demands Death speak to him directly. But Mephisto suggests another reason why she might be upset. That it's something he hasn't done. Thanos realizes that he's been so busy reveling in his new powers that he completely forgot the entire reason he was resurrected. Killing half the universe. And with that, Thanos snaps his fingers and does it. Although it's not quite as horrific as you would imagine. We see it from the perspective of Earth heroes. For Spider-Man, his spider sense goes nuts, and he instantly witnesses half the people walking around Times Square just vanish. I would have thought killing them all would have, had everyone fall over dead, but in this case, nope, the people just disappear. Babies, superheroes, but it's not limited to humans. The Hulk, wearing an ugly, ugly brown outfit with an open shirt, is having a drink in a bar and overhears a news report saying animals are affected too. Half the animal population has popped out of existence. And somewhere in the pages of Marvel, a group of morons weep for the molecules that have been lost. And of course, it's happening throughout the universe. Half the Skrulls have vanished, so their queen says it's a plot by the Kree, declaring war upon them. Which is really not as impressive when you realize that the Kree and the Skrulls go to war as frequently as characters die and are resurrected. It hits close to home for Doctor Strange, as his servant Wong also vanishes. The Silver Surfer can feel it too, as if millions of voices cried out at once and were suddenly silenced. I could taste their dread and confusion. It tasted like grape jelly and mustard. It was horrible. We enter issue 2 as we start seeing the practical effect of half the world's population disappearing. A jetliner has crashed into New York's Fifth Avenue, with surprisingly little damage to the area, probably thanks to it being close to landing already when the pilots disappeared. Some of the Avengers are on the scene to help, including She-Hulk here. Just hang in there, folks, we're coming! Whoa, this whole disappearance thing was like tubular, to the max! Adam Warlock contacts Doctor Strange, letting him know that their only hope of stopping Thanos is rallying all the champions of Earth to combat this threat. However, it's not just the heroes who are dealing with all this, as Doctor Doom is following these events with great interest. A chance to expand on my scientific knowledge and personal power. And certainly nothing has ever gone wrong for Doom when he tries to seize godlike power. The next subplot starts us off with Thanos' brother, Eros. Gotta love Marvel cosmic stuff. You've got a big purple dude whose brother is a white guy with a stupid haircut. The best part? Eros has another name in the Marvel Universe. Star Fox.
I'll do my best. Andros won't have his way with me.
Anyway, Thanos kidnaps Eros to torture him. Eros has the power to manipulate emotions, which he tries to use on Thanos, but Thanos deals with that by making his mouth disappear. That is the way it shall be with all things that irritate proud Thanos. It has made playing Xbox Live games much more enjoyable. Ironically, while George Perez was working on War of the Gods, he also has this scene here, where the leaders of various pantheons unite together in the hope of stopping the force responsible for the vanishings. Meanwhile, the Silver Surfer awakens to see Doctor Strange being held captive by Doctor Doom. The Surfer tries to intervene, but Doom just blasts him. "Fall victim to a superior intellect and power, as you did in our last encounter! I am Doom, master of the stick shift!" However, before Doom can question the two on the vanishings, Adam Warlock arrives to save them, saying Doom will be needed for this task as well. He explains the situation to Doom, and while Doom wants to lead the Force going against Thanos himself, Adam Warlock is the only one among them who has any knowledge of the Infinity Gems, so he has the best chance of figuring out a strategy against them. Thanos, meanwhile, fails to impress Death with his torturing of Eros and Nebula. "I have given you your every wish, and the universe to boot. Yet still you deny me even the slightest of smiles?" Oh, dude, don't tell a woman to smile. This is why she won't go to prom with you. He rages at this, his anger causing devastation throughout the universe, from entire planets and stars destroyed to quakes on Earth. On the subject of destroyed planets, though, Galactus was just about to chow down on a world when Thanos inadvertently destroyed it. This forces Galactus to now seek out allies to combat him. In fact, the devastation even reaches into other dimensions, damaging Asgard and trapping the deities meeting there so they can't come to assist. Also, Japan has sunk into the ocean, so that's a bit of a bummer. Apparently, English is the cosmic language, since as we start issue 3, Thanos uses his power to arrange a bunch of planets to spell out his name. Death is, of course, not impressed. Well, yeah, dude, nobody likes it when their date only talks about themselves and how wonderful they are. Jeez, you suck at this, Thanos. Back at Earth, they soon learn that the cosmic wave that caused the earthquakes did much worse. Earth has been pushed out of its orbit, and they'll start drifting away from the sun. Adam Warlock's crew meet up with the Avengers, and they start calling in the reserves. Basically everybody on Earth they can find who hasn't vanished. Even though, let's face it, most of these people are gonna be kinda useless in this fight. Just to show off that point, Adam Warlock and the Silver Surfer head out to meet up with their other allies in this fight, all the cosmic beings Galactus gathered. Among them is one of the weirdest ones that I kind of have to explain because it's a plot point later. Eternity. Eternity is the actual embodiment of the universe. The universe itself is a character, and he has horns. It's weird. Most of the group that sticks around for the meetings, some of them were there for other reasons, agrees to follow Adam Warlock's strategy, since apparently he uniquely exists outside the normal forces of the universe. See, this is why I always hesitate when people call me an expert in superhero comics, because there's a crap ton of stuff I've never read before, and Marvel cosmic stuff is a pretty big part of that. So that's why I can say I have no idea how the hell some artificially created perfect human exists outside of those universal forces. The Watcher arrives outside of Thanos' temple, which in his mind means that obviously he's gonna be attacked soon. Back with the heroes, Adam Warlock goes to talk to Wolverine and the Hulk. While in modern times at Marvel, the heroes have been more inclined to kill their enemies, even back in the 90s, it wasn't a popular thing in the big two for superheroes to kill. As such, these two are uniquely minded in thinking that extreme measures might be called upon against Thanos, so Adam basically tells them, if the opportunity to kill Thanos arises, do it and don't hesitate. However, as Adam walks away, snow begins to fall. Snow? In May? Wolverine, you're from Canada. Don't pretend this is the first time you've ever seen snow in May. With the heroes of Earth soon to arrive, Thanos asks Death to stand by his side in combating them. And yet again, she rejects him. As such, he figures making her jealous will work too, using the Infinity Gauntlet to construct a Rule 63 version of himself called Taraxia to be his girlfriend. And of course, Death doesn't give a crap, and Thanos is clearly annoyed by that. I just imagine that Death has a Walkman under her robes that's playing No Scrubs on repeat. As issue 3 ends, the heroes of Earth are sent in, with Adam Warlock and the Silver Surfer a light year away, and we learn Warlock's plan. See, Thanos is invincible and omnipotent. The gathered heroes of Earth are nothing next to him. The battle between them and Thanos is already over, and they've already lost. They're just a diversion to be sacrificed. Adam Judas Rimmer. And of course, as issue 4 begins, Thanos simply freezes time before anyone can attack. He prepares to snuff them all out, but Mephisto has a different idea. Another one to try to impress Death. If he gives the heroes a chance of victory, even the odds even slightly more in their favor, Death might actually like him overcoming some odds. Thanos thinks it's a good idea, cutting his senses off from everything but the power gem. Eros realizes that Mephisto is actually on their side, trying to undermine Thanos. The only reason Thanos isn't aware of it is because he's still adjusting to his new powers. And it actually does give the heroes a bit of leeway, as both the Hulk and Drax the Destroyer are able to punch him. Although from a very odd angle. If not for the fact that Thanos has all this power at his disposal, the heroes would have actually done very well. They get hits off, with Captain America coordinating the assault, but it's clearly for naught. And of course, Doom mucks things up for the team too. Thor has an opportunity to potentially end Thanos after getting hit by his hammer, but Dr. Doom steps in the way and tries to steal the Infinity Gauntlet. And that brilliant idea leads to Doom getting fried and bouncing away. All part of Doom's plan. Wolverine manages to stab Thanos, but he recovers quickly and transmutes his adamantium skeleton into rubber. One by one, the heroes are killed off. Vision getting his robot bits pulled out, Cyclops getting a cube put around his head. Spider-Man actually gets off pretty easy, just getting punched dead by Taraxia. Adam Warlock's plan then comes into play. As Captain America remains the last man standing against Thanos, he prepares to send in the Silver Surfer. Thanos shatters Cap's shield and prepares to strike him dead, only for the Surfer to swoop in to grab the Infinity Gauntlet. And he misses. Thanos, realizing how close he came to losing it all, decides screw playing fair and resumes his full power. Thanos cleans up all the corpses of the heroes as he prepares for his next fight.
Bring out your dead!
Issue 4 ends with all the cosmic forces showing up to do battle with him, including the big giant head there.
Show me what you got!
And thus the battle between these forces commences, including beings like the embodiments of order and chaos, love and hate. Yeah, it's a big deal. And even the Watcher points out how something of this magnitude is beyond words, instead letting us enjoy the pretty colors that herald the end of the universe. Yeah, a battle of this scale actually destroys star systems in its wake, and yet Eros and Nebula survive this. How? Death saves them. Her hatred for Thanos must reach unfathomable depths. Well, have you seen how bad this date is going? He's gonna start claiming she friend-zoned him any time now. We actually do get a better view of the battle as each of the cosmic beings tries their own unique ways of fighting, hurling planets at him, trying to bury him in time, trying to rip him apart with literal chaos. It's friggin' awesome stuff. Mephisto finally tries to make his move, hoping to take the gauntlet off of him during the confusion, and yet again is met with failure. Unfortunately, we are denied the glory of seeing that one more day causing dickhead get his due by Death saving him. And so the battle comes down to just Thanos versus eternity itself. And Thanos wins. However, Adam Warlock sees in this their opportunity, he and the Surfer going back to Earth. Thanos becomes the embodiment of the universe. It's a cool and creepy sight. His body remains, though it's just a husk now. Sire, your body! No longer needed. Magnificent Thanos has rid himself of the flesh. Has shed all vulnerability! Hey wait, what's that wave of antimatter in the distance? But then comes Thanos' mistake in doing so. With everyone distracted by Thanos' redecoration of the universe, they don't notice the shambling, rotting corpse of Nebula, who grabs the Infinity Gauntlet and puts it on. After restoring herself to normal, and naturally being really pissed at Thanos, she returns him to his body and then exiles him out into space without any power of his own. An eternity of drifting helplessly in space. An infinity to mull on my sins and follies. In retrospect, maybe I should have just given Death some chocolates. However, his exile is ended rather quickly as Adam Warlock transports Thanos to Earth. The only heroes who are still alive soon join them, and they explain that actually the situation has gotten much worse. Thanos actually spent time collecting the Infinity Gems and slowly adjusting to their power, didn't start pulling the cosmic stuff for a while. But Nebula, who was already pretty screwed up thanks to the living nightmare Thanos put her through, just got the full brunt of omnipotence at once, so who knows what will happen there. As the heroes once again make their plans, Warlock pulls Thanos aside to secure his aid in the battle against Nebula. He's at first reluctant to help, but Adam Warlock admits that since he was once bonded to the Soul Gem, he gained insight into Thanos' subconscious. Thanos actually has a desire to fail, since he doesn't actually believe he's worthy of the ultimate power he keeps trying to attain. Although he'll probably just blame it on Death not liking his cool planet spelling out my name thing. The Earth heroes are sent in first against Nebula, and like before, they fail miserably. Issue 5 ends with Doctor Strange, Adam Warlock, Thanos, and the Silver Surfer arriving, although from the looks of things, Adam got a really bad sunburn from the earlier cosmic fights. Nebula imprisons Thanos as Doctor Strange and the Surfer realize that Adam Warlock's unique existence makes him invisible to her, giving them a chance. Thanos mocks Nebula, saying she hasn't accomplished anything since she got the gems. Nebula, pissed that Thanos considers his murder of half of the universe an accomplishment, uses her power to reset time by 24 hours, with the exception of her retaining the Infinity Gauntlet. And thus the reset button is pressed. Everyone's alive again, most of the heroes forgetting this ever happened. However, this little time reversal is her undoing, since it frees up all those cosmic beings that Thanos had imprisoned. This time they attack all together, distracting her so that Adam Warlock can once again join with the Soul Gem. Through that, he accesses the other gems and blasts Nebula away from the gauntlet. Adam takes possession of the gauntlet, with both Nebula and Thanos trying to claim it for themselves. What right has he to it? The right of possession. That is enough. The infinite power is now Adam Warlock's. Seek not to dispute that claim. It is now mine under the Finders Keepers clause. Thanos, being a sore loser, activates a thermal nuclear device so that he can kill himself rather than be imprisoned again, but he's sent hurtling away from the group, blowing up but good. Nebula is transported back to Titan, where she would eventually end up in that god-awful Secret Defenders two-parter I reviewed way back in 2009. The three that remain with Adam, Doctor Strange, Thor, and the Silver Surfer, are less than impressed with the idea of Adam Warlock having this power, even if he is more benevolent than the last two owners of the Gauntlet. But there's not really anything they can do, so he just teleports them back to Earth and reunites with Pip and Gamora. They travel 60 days into the future and meet up with Thanos, who actually faked his death and decided to become a farmer. After failing several times now to take over existence, yeah, he figures maybe he should quietly contemplate the lessons he's learned from all of this. Lesson 1. Killing half the universe may impress women at first, but you need a winning personality for them to stay. And so our comic ends with Thanos musing how neither he nor Adam Warlock got what they originally intended, but in the end he thinks he came out on top. The Infinity Gauntlet is a great story about ultimate power. Its failings do exist, but they're not too distracting. Honestly, I feel the biggest issue with it is that if you're unfamiliar with a lot of these characters, it feels a little flat as a result. Like I said earlier, I know next to nothing about Adam Warlock and a bunch of the cosmic beings shown in this book, so his own connections and what little character stuff he does in this doesn't really do much for me. And for an event comic, most of Marvel's heroes exist in this thing basically to get curb stomped to show off how powerful Thanos is. That being said, the battle against Thanos is spectacular, especially when the heroes do get some hits off on him. The twist of having Nebula claim the gauntlet for the last two issues is brilliant, planting this seed with Nebula's corpse-like form just being on the background, pretty much forgotten once the fighting starts, and then letting her take center stage as the final villain is great. I just wish the other characters had more to do in the book, though I suppose it helps to not have as many characters competing for the center stage. The events of this book had a ton of consequences down the road, leading to more events and more story turns. Infinity Gauntlet had two direct sequels in the preceding years, Infinity War and Infinity Crusade, both spinning out of the fallout of Adam Warlock possessing the Gauntlet. They're also good stories in their own right, with Infinity Crusade in particular giving more stuff for the heroes to do. The Infinity Gems and the Gauntlet have reappeared in one form or another throughout Marvel, Thanos himself waffling between anti-hero and villain during that time, and is the subject of many miniseries and events. Death would instead find a better boyfriend, Deadpool! Yeah, that's a whole thing too, with the story told there saying that Thanos actually cursed Deadpool with immortality so as to keep him as far away from death as possible. Although Deadpool was also married at the time, so make of that what you will. Next time, Event Comics Month comes to a close as we head back to DC. We opened this month with DC changing their continuity, and we end with DC changing their continuity. Yet strangely enough, though, I envy not Adam Warlock. Somehow I feel that in the long run, Thanos of Titan came out ahead in this particular deal. Well, time to spread some manure.